Welcome to the Elavon podcast, the show that ignites your passion for leadership and empowers you to develop a culture of continuous improvement. I'm your host, Matt Sims, and in each episode, we bring you fascinating insights and invaluable tips from our incredible lineup of guests. What do they all have in common? They share an unwavering dedication to excellence and are the experts in driving engagement, improving metrics, and reducing costs.
The Elavon podcast with Matt Sims. You know it makes sense.
In this episode of the Elavon podcast, I am thrilled to welcome Jan Otterbach, Head of Process Transformation at Elavon Europe. As a business agility lead, Jan has been instrumental in driving key strategic change initiatives and improving ways of working across various organisations. With a diverse background spanning both commercial and technology sectors, Jan is passionate about promoting collaborative, cross-functional approaches that put people first and drive results. Jan's impressive career includes leading the transformation of sales and commercial processes and enhancing efficiency and revenue growth at Elavon Europe, mentoring teams to achieve transformational changes and establishing dynamic team structures and governance models to support critical transformation efforts. It's clear from his achievements that Jan excels in building strong relationships with stakeholders and guiding team members to reach their full potential through training and mentorship. During this episode, we'll delve into Jan's journey and explore what it truly takes to introduce change and transformation in the workplace. Jan will share first-hand insights from his experiences, revealing what he believes lies at the heart of a healthy and sustainable way of working. We'll discuss best practices for changing the way we work, uncover the concept of the sexy 20%, and explain what it means to move towards the 80%. So stick with us as we get to know Jan and learn from his wealth of knowledge in driving effective and impactful change. This episode really does promise to be an enlightening conversation for anyone interested in business transformation and continuous improvement, with experiences and learning right from the coalface itself. Jan, welcome to the Elavon podcast.
Thanks for having me, Matt. I'm excited, and I'm still blushing a little from that introduction, but yeah, we'll see how we go.
All very true. All very true. Do you know, sometimes people say to me, when I do the introductions, people say to me, I'd forgotten I did that. I don't remember doing that.
Yeah, I do remember, but
it's like the school report.
Yes, but it all sounds so fancy where day-to-day work life, as you know, just feels a little bit more real than that sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. You get swept up in it, don't you? And you forget to look at what you've done and achieved. And you've got some wonderful achievements, and you've worked, in some great companies as well, which I'm really looking forward to hearing all about. And it's very, very nice as well to get a perspective from somebody who is in amongst it as well. So often we speak to sort of experts in the field, and there can be a gap between what's happening in reality versus what the logic says and what the textbooks say. Yeah. So it's quite nice to get that,
and really looking forward to that, because if I listen to these podcasts myself, and actually do listen to this one regularly, what I love best is just being bombarded with lots of different thoughts, ideas, and I usually walk away from an episode with one or two or three things that, hey, I want to try them. Those were clever things that person said. I want to do it. And if I can do that for the listeners today, I'd be excited.
Yeah, you're the one giving out those nuggets.
That's right.
You're the distributor. You're the dealer.
yes. Probably not the perfect word.
So let's get stuck in then. Let's talk a little bit about your career path then, because it's a really interesting progression that you've had. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, it's all a little bit weird when you look at it in a forward motion, but all makes sense in the rear view mirror. So I'll maybe explain forward. So I would have studied here in Ireland, did my master's here, and moved back to Germany to join KPMG, and basically immediately jumped into being a tech consultant and auditor, basically jumping into financial services and getting obsessed with systems and processes and the controls and risks around them. But I got a great exposure, basically jumping up and down the German financial services industry. But when the chance came, I let myself be seconded to Ireland again, because I loved living here, and ended up working with KPMG in Ireland, and it was basically the same. So my experience continued to be in highly automated businesses that from which information security, information risks play a huge role. And I basically had my full tour of the Irish economy with absolutely everything included. And then just at some stage, even with that, the learning was slowing down a bit. I was looking for a new challenge. End up in Elavon, which is part of a huge US bank, which you might ask me which US bank if you're from Europe, but household name in America. Huge organization. We've been with the bank for 6 years now in 4 different roles, depending on how you want to count. Starting with making our regulators happy, as someone explaining how good we are and how good our systems are. And then moving on to being business agility lead, which really was a huge leap from having that risk and compliance tech person, but also probably the only risk manager with a Kanban board, become agile coach to our most important strategic change initiatives. So that was me being a business agility lead and trying to find governance structures that help us get our strategic priorities done. And then all of that changed again. And that was last November. And I was sitting in my living room in Dublin talking to one of our telesales agents out of Newcastle in the UK. And she took 2 hours, which we could have made 3, to explain to me what she needed to do to make the sale to a single flower shop happen. To maybe explain what we do, we basically put card machines in the hands of merchants or card payments facilities on websites and basically make sure the money makes it into the customer's account. So we securely handle that. We're very good at that. And still, we somehow turned for our salespeople selling into an obstacle course that took a scary amount of their time. And I was looking out of my living room window over the rolling Irish hillside, thinking, and then realized that wasn't one person's problem. Picked up the phone to more people, not one teams, not one groups. This is our entire sales force dealing with an absolute obstacle course of process around them. And that's how the head of process transformation for our commercial functions came into play, because it's been probably one of the most fun moments of my entire career at the moment. Process was strangely valuable, although I feel like I'm teaching people to use rocks and fire sometimes. It's been so fun really producing results, getting into this. And we've stood up a sales process optimization initiative and really been cracking into it for the last 6 to 9 months here, making stuff better and helping our salespeople sell. And it's been so fun working with them.
How did you find the reactions of quite often when we go into new environments and we try and introduce some form of continuous improvement structure, there can be a real resistance. Did you face any of that?
We never really even called it continuous improvement, but
that's the best way.
So I think one of the huge opportunities that I have is that I'm deep into the organization, and that kind of everything I've done before, the 10 years before, it kind of perfectly taught me how to do this job without me even knowing that I was ever going to do it. And the big advantage that I have is that I'm native to the organization. So there is not some external person buzzing in, throwing all these words around, giving all these trainings. But here's someone who knows the organization. So I spent hours, actually entire European tour of the last few months, sitting next to salespeople physically, sometimes for hours, just looking over their shoulder, watching what they do, encouraged others to do so. And there's just no shortcut for this. So there's the native slow way of approaching it. And by just doing this, by listening, you build some credibility. And sorry, I have this to hand right now. You're getting for this podcast one of the very, very last pages of my favorite notebook that has kind of been with me on the European tour. So if you didn't see it in the camera, very average looking notebook. But the frustrations from the salespeople and the ideas and observations in it are probably worth as much as a lottery win for us as an organization. So there's millions in this notebook. We probably need to take insurance out. But I guess so the change resistance. Yes, I mean, one of the biggest obstacles is that you never have enough resources to do everything you want to do. But in terms of the people, no, because the approach very much from the get-go focused on being there for frontline sales, sitting next to them, not just doing theoretical exercises, listening to calls, getting them in a room. We did a big workshop. Half of the workshop were frontline salespeople. The other half were specialists. It's not just getting the specialists in the room, it's getting everyone in the room and letting them be part of the conversation. And I think that's helped hugely. So there was huge excitement that we've had so far, maybe a bit of a honeymoon phase still to some extent, but it's been going on for months and months and months at this point. And the story of, hey, let's make things better has just continued.
I think you're doing yourself an injustice. I think the fact that you've gone down, and I call it an oh-no special, you've gone down, you've done an oh-no special, you've gone to the Gemba, you've sat there, you've observed, and they've seen you actually doing that and taking an interest. So you've done it the right way, and that gives you credibility. And I think that's probably what's helping you ride that crest of that wave, really.
Yeah, and I think to me, this is one of the first, and I've been a coach before, but this is one of the first things and ideas and challenges that I even want to leave with people that are listening to this is, what's the last time you try to buy your own product on your website. So I've tried to buy a card machine from us multiple times over the years. What's the last time you listened to a customer service call or a salesperson trying to sell your product and actually listen to your customer? Because it's absolutely transformative doing that. No shortcut. This takes a little bit of time, but it's
worth its weight in gold, isn't it?
Yeah, hugely recommend it, because especially in large organizations, you can easily get swept away in theory and dealing with all these different teams that are involved and all of it. If you have customer quotes and a clear picture of what the customer pain or the frontline salesperson's pain actually is, it's so much easier to have the conversation, so much easier to be passionate about it as well.
Yeah, such a great philosophy. Really, really is the essence of the foundations of what makes a really good culture. So I'm super pleased to hear that you're doing that. So tell us about some of the other key elements of the ways of working that you've implemented and you've got going for you.
So what I do love is just making stuff visible. So I have a mild obsession with Post-its. Again, if I'm holding up...
Yes, that's a very bright Post-it.
Yeah. And I have boxes of them underneath my desk, the entire stash, ready for a workshop any second. I have a bit of an unhealthy love of them. I've moved my obsession virtual, though. So because we're highly distributed through Europe, we use virtual whiteboards a whole lot. And at some stage, I did a count. And for the sales processes that we've mapped between 10 and 15 different versions of it, we had used 1,500 Post-its. And I did kind of the math of how long would that be if you actually put them together on a whiteboard. And it's around 330 meters, which,
incredible.
That's the height of the Eiffel Tower in terms of sales process. Just from the moment of someone reaching out to us or becoming a lead to signing the contract with us in different variations.
Madness.
And I wish I had my orange Post-its here, because we had one convention every time we had something that we noticed or were thinking of while we're doing the flowchart. And because flowcharts aren't an end product, they're a conversation tool. Every time we notice something, we put down a red sticky. And so 300 plus orange stickies of we could do this better. So every fifth sticky that went down was, hold on a minute, we're noticing something. I mean, obviously that's completely overwhelming. Can't do all these things. But it goes to show what the power of actually making stuff visible is. And actually, some of those 300 things I didn't even need to touch. It was just we're doing this. We shouldn't. Let's stop it. Let's do it differently. And that just happened without any central coordination, without anything further, except for just making stuff visible, because you cannot improve what you cannot see, especially not if you're whiteboard obsessed. But it's making the problems visible and even having those examples ready to bring leaders along. And there's kind of a 15-20 minute ramble of me talking through our sales process that left everyone that I took through it in some level of shock, awe, or whatever. Just in terms of making things visible, finding bad things. I mean, my inner German always likes a good problem, and I have probably culturally less challenges with that than most people would. But I've started really looking at all those orange Post-its in my life and all these challenges coming my way, which to an overwhelming degree as one opportunity after another. And if you start doing that, it gets fun. So if you don't get overwhelmed by oh no, I need to fix all this, but think I can fix all this, and it's going to be massive if we do, it changes the entire attitude and energy around things. And that's such an important part of that.
But what a great thing to do, to be able to relate it back to something that people can picture, like what you've done with the length of the Post-it notes and the Eiffel Tower. That must be such a powerful visual to say to people that work in sales. It must blow them away.
Especially salespeople. So I've done agile in non-technical teams, and now I'm doing process improvements with salespeople who for the most part, can't even accept the fact that they're part of a process to begin with, because it's and they have right, because there's an element of art, and not everything is so you can make their life easier, but that doesn't necessarily sometimes mean that you're going to sell more. Most of the time it does, but it's something to really pay attention to bring people along in a way without maybe using maybe even overcomplicating it. So showing it, making it visible, yes, but it's sometimes not even clever to throw all the complexity and everything at people, because sometimes they react not in a hey, this is great kind of way, but oh, I'm overwhelmed. So throttling it sometimes helps as well.
It's about knowing your audience, isn't it? And I think you're doing that. The way you're relating it back to real life scenarios like the Eiffel Tower and stuff, that's stuff that I've done in my career as well. And the impact of that is huge. And it's a simple thing to do when you think about it. We used to work out the distance that the postal people had walked, like collecting the mail and then sorting it. So over a period of a month or something, it'd be like 200 miles. And we go, that's the equivalent of walking from this delivery office to so-and-so. And people were blown away that they walked that distance.
Yeah, sounds about right. One of my dreams at the minute is, and I mean, this is just one way of communicating. One of the ways I was thinking about communicating some of the changes that we do also to salespeople is just to make it a little bit fun. So one of the ways we were thinking about was producing something that kind of looks like a 90s infomercial with someone using something in incredibly clumsy ways, and then there must be a better way. We might need to find an American colleague to do the voiceover for that one, and then explain it that way. Or you might know the TikTok videos of I've been doing this wrong. It's to just find snappy ways of communicating with people that just make it a bit fun and a bit engaging.
Some of those TikTok videos are so funny, and they're like, I've been doing it for 25 years and I've been doing it wrong. They're brilliant, aren't they?
Yes. But you could do it with your work processes too. So that's the point.
Have you seen the one with the onion? When I dice an onion, I chop the root at the top of the bottom. I take the layers off, and then I sort of cut it one way, then cut it another. And I saw this guy the other day, right? No word of a lie. He chopped one of the roots off at the bottom, laid it flat, peeled the outer of the onion up, and then from the top of the root going down the onion, he just sliced it all the way round into like little segments, so it opened up like a fan, and then he turned it on its side and went bang, 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 and it just diced it in seconds.
Next level.
I was like, I'm going to try this. It's amazing. It's changed my cooking experience now. I chop an onion really professionally. It's amazing.
Here's something I didn't think I was going to learn today, but yeah, you need to shoot me the video later. I'll try.
There you go. That's your second thing. We're going to get the whole world chopping onions in a certain way. Sorry, I've taken you off track. So we was talking about how you like to make things visible. Have you got any more successful ways of working that you can share?
Yeah, to find a structure. And structure science sounds like something that's solid, but that's really probably the wrong way to think about it entirely. So yes, you need some kind of form to do something in. And one of those examples that I have from the last few years is how we've built truly cross-functional teams around our strategic priorities. And people kind of are in their own little community, their function. And sometimes we use the term silo for that. But what we did basically create was additional communities in people being also part of a cross-functional team. So people weren't moved around across 100%. I wish to a degree that they would have been. But anyways, we brought people together as a truly cross-functional team, as a group, and had them become a group. When I say structure, I mean, for instance, that building structure around that. And then you want to teach these groups things. And we're basically doing the same for the sales process optimization, cutting across all the different sales teams, brought truly cross-functional sales group together. And the last time we trained them and brought them up to speed in agile ways of working for our strategic execution. This time it's lean. But it all, in my mind, comes back down to the same roots of being people-oriented, being practical. So it's bring the right people together, create the foundational knowledge. And then what's also not to be forgotten is to find good governance with leadership and a consistent rhythm for that. So one of the ways we've done that, and looking back, I'm not sure if it was a pure success. So it was a bit of a struggle at times, but we basically had a regular cadence of a couple of strategic priorities going on one Friday to some of our most senior leaders, and the next ones on the next Friday. So we had kind of a 2-week cycle for coming back to senior leaders. It was very small, informal conversations, just touch bases, and it's probably taking a little bit up too much of our leaders' time because some of the stuff moved slower. But I really like that our leaders got really close to the change initiatives in ways that it probably never did. Sometimes they get 50 PowerPoint slides full of tables with different projects. Getting close, actually seeing stuff that's coming out of the getting a demo of what the feature is, making stuff real. That to me is all part of structure and governance. And if there's the one thing, again, to point to here, it's this: pull out what the actual work output looks like, show the thing, make it real. Don't have it be a PowerPoint presentation, but actually show the feature, demo the feature in your governance presentation. The output of the team and give a moment to celebrate and for it to become real. I think that's been huge for us. And every time we do it, it's a success, but it's still, we sometimes be slipping back in terms of forgetting about how powerful that can be. But just a thought for everyone.
Do you know what? I can see the passion in your face when you're talking about it. It's really lovely to see. Big smile on your face. Brilliant. So what's up next? So what's the next one?
I think it's to do with experimentation and things, again, becoming real through it. And I've said this early at the beginning, but I want to repeat it. It's that there's no shortcut to experiencing it yourself. So part of that is this Gemba element, and then going back to it. I've heard talked to one colleague told me that she, in another organization, listened to at least an hour of customer service calls every day in her job with a high street retailer in the UK, of just to get a sense of reality that way is foundational to even understand if the experiments, the changes that you're making could even work. And I've pushed this getting out there so far that one of the things I've done over the last 4 years, I've labeled my customer safari. So I've gone to in around a dozen different teams that deal with customers in our organization, then created communications around that, incentivized other people to go out and do the same, because to me, that's been most powerful. So the experiment starts with the sense of the reality of what it could be. And that to me means also change leadership is knowing what the reality actually looks like. And then it's almost switching gears a little bit into this Lean Six Sigma world, is to become somewhat obsessed and data driven with the measures. But I'm not an agile purist. I'm not a Lean Six Sigma purist. I think anything that's purist is probably a bad idea. But those are super powerful tools, but to be used in a measured way. So being very, very people oriented, getting close to the coalface, and then measuring the living daylight out of it. All of those are good ideas. But you still need to make your decisions with a degree of common sense and not just focus around the data. It's always about the people and making stuff stick.
Are you doing this on your own, or do you have a team around you when you're doing this?
So for what we're doing at the moment with the sales process optimization and the strategic change initiatives, that a couple teams, this now is one group of people. We were around 10 people coming from different parts of the sales organization, coming together as one team. Across the different tribes to coming together as one, and we're doing this together. So everyone's taking little pieces, and it's sometimes incredible. But one of the things we're benefiting from is that some part of our organization does something super smart that just something else, some other team just benefits from. So one example of that would be that our UK and Ireland colleagues have built a dashboard that's so clever, because our salespeople currently look into up to 8 different Excel files and emails to figure out where their stuff is in the process. And they've just built one Power BI dashboard that answers all the salespeople's questions in the salesperson's head, one by what's my lead, my opportunity, has my card machine gone out of the door, do I have any trouble in terms of the boarding of the customer, all in one place, click, click, click. But it makes no sense to just have that for one single area where all our other sales teams all across Europe would benefit from that as well. So the estimated benefit of this outweighs basically everything else we've done so far this year, because that's worth in the millions, because the time saving from people not clicking through different reports is in the thousands of hours, that if we sell for thousands of hours, we typically make millions in revenue. So
yeah,
it's just unlocking the full potential of some of the great stuff that's out there that we've been really riding on, and people starting to cross-share and really cross-collaborate. And that's the power of that new tribe.
That's a problem as well that I think lots of people listening will be able to relate to, this issue of having multiple reports, multiple data sources, having to trawl through them all. To have that one central data bank that you're using there, that one central report, is an incredible tool to have.
Yeah, it's live. And I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go into the technical detail, but the thought process really was very stringent on, okay, let's go through this entire sales process. What are the worries and thoughts and questions that pop into a salesperson's head that typically is answered by data? It's, okay, are there any new leads? Okay, no, I need to go call these people. How are my opportunities developing? Has the customer account been opened by the boarding team? ... So they're going through the entire process very clinically, and then really figuring out what the worries are, where does this data usually come from, and basically building something. This is also with everything has its place, putting it in the right place from the lean space kind of coming into this, is if you actually put the information where you want the action to be and make it all very obvious, that's the real power of this. And that's kind of lean meeting user experience design, but that's exactly what's been happening here. Yeah.
And it's doing the job as well, and it's delivering you benefits, which you can't complain about. You simplified it, haven't you?
That's right. Yeah, and I need to give just so much credit to the teams involved. The energy has been great, and it's been so much fun working with these different parts of our organization, seeing them come together. So if that's not happening in your organization, it's really worth trying.
Have you found that having people from different parts of the organization, do they tend to have different agendas, or are you all fixed on the same goal before you start?
So, deep sigh if you didn't hear it. But so the agile coach in me wants to work with OKRs, objectives and key results. If you want to Google that, it's a very clever way of aligning interests and making what the together outcome should be very real. And I haven't really done that for the sales process initiative that I'm running at the moment. What we do have is basically a scoreboard of how many hours we've been saving. And that's been motivational and working. And we can translate it into a revenue figure. So why make it any more complicated than that? But what I would like and what I need to do in shifting this to the next phase, because I mean, at the moment, we have a group of people doing this from the relative side of their desks. It's just part of their job. I think with the returns that we've been seeing, taking this to the next level might well take actually getting objectives behind it, find a business case and everything else. But that's not to say that we're not measuring things. That's not to say we don't care about commercials, because I actually do work in our commercial functions and function that have. So this matters a lot to me. The numbers do, but it's also just about motivating people. And if it's just taking away frustrations, if the responses to my processes are working for me and in our employee surveys are going up, if our revenue numbers are ticking up, and if changes go in that they save us thousands of hours. Yeah, we keep track of that, but we probably don't need to make it much more complicated, because at the moment it's motivating enough to just make the number tick higher. The one thought that I didn't really finish is the structure and the governance being an experiment. And that also talks to the cadence that stuff happens in. So at the moment, for our strategic change teams, they work on a 2-week cycle, as I was explaining earlier. But for the sales process optimization initiative that we're running, it's actually on a weekly cadence that we're kind of, okay, this is what we did this week. This is what we're going to do next week. And it fits the maturity of the team and the rhythm of the work that we have. But we also have this slightly wider way of looking at this. So we had a good few things going out of the door by the 30th of July. I don't love thinking in quarters, but happened to work out that way. And we have a good few things that we want to have out of the door by the end of September. And what we're thinking about and kind of noticing is that 6 weeks seems to be an okay rhythm. So think about how we work as a team, and having that conversation as a team is deeply embedded into Agile. And it's something that we do with the cross-functional team as well, basically having these retrospectives. And this is, again, using a term. I don't love Agile terminology, don't love lean terminology, but in essence, you just get people in a room and ask what's working, what's not, what do we have to change on a regular basis. And it's just about how you work together. Do we have the right people on the team? Do we have the right rhythm of meetings? Do we spend too much time managing the work as opposed to doing it? Having all those conversations on a regular basis is super important. And then the governance cadences come on top of that, where presenting back to leadership. We had initially done that on a monthly basis. And then one of our sales executives was basically looking at me, and I'm only semi-quoting him here, but basically was like, Jan, why are you bothering with all this boring stuff? And the answer was, well, because the boring stuff is worth the millions at the minute. It's those simple changes that make the difference. But what we did realize is that we were actually getting through the boring stuff just fine, and could actually let the leaders get on with the fires they had to fight more, and didn't need to talk about it for the sake of it. So we've moved the cadence out a little bit, and actually, while we keep the strict cadence in the small team in terms of going out to wider leaders and asking for support, we've actually done surprisingly little of that, and we've spaced out the cadence between that quite a bit, actually. So it's also looking at your governance as an experiment, and looking at the rhythm as something that is something that keeps the pulse of the change going, but doesn't need to be a constant thing. It's something you watch all the time in terms of what's actually working for you. Change doesn't happen for me. Change doesn't happen to me. I'm the change. One of the most powerful questions, and this sounds super dangerous, doing this with a group of salespeople that spend most of their time doing admin. It's literally the only way you can affect change in a large organization is to do it with people. People always just look at the negative side. No. Why are you talking to me about all this boring stuff? Strip away the labels from everything. Take the good ideas and with common sense use them in the context that you actually need to use them. So don't try to push for the one right answer on how you need to work together.
Right, this is Jan's moment, the yes/no game. He's been waiting for it for ages. We're going to find out, is Jan the man? Are you ready to elevate your team's ways of working? Are you seeking fresh insights and growth opportunities? Our experts will assess your team's practices, providing valuable insights for improvement and celebration. Reward and recognise your team with this certification tailored specifically for creating an improvement culture. The BQF Academy accreditation acknowledges your journey, outstanding outcomes, and future plans. Whether you utilise Lean, Six Sigma, project management, or continuous improvement techniques, this certification celebrates your incredible work and positive impact. Propel your team's performance to new heights with the BQF Team Excellence Culture certification, Visit www.bqf.org.uk today and let's celebrate your success together.
13-time Shingo Prize winner Dr. Jeffrey Likert and Toyota Kata author Mike Rother have created the Improvement Kata and Coaching Kata online course. This inexpensive, compact program is designed to transform your thinking and approach, making you a highly skilled learner and coach. Engage in deliberate practice to turbocharge your progress. You also get lifetime access to the materials, including all of the bonus interviews. Why pay up to 10 times the price elsewhere, listening to some consultant, when you can gain direct insights from the masters themselves? Skip the rest and go with the best. Join us today and embark on your journey to excellence. Just click on the link below to start your journey.
And is that a joint decision then to change the cadence, to move it out further? That's a joint decision between a number of leaders.
That's right. Yeah. So, and we basically just had the open conversation of saying, look, we didn't have too much to bring this time, and here's the info on what we're doing. We think it might make sense to just space it out a little, and that people could just see why, and it worked, and it's still transparent and visible enough what we're doing, and no need to overcomplicate it with lots and lots of governance. And that's what we went for.
That's another really simple thing that you've done that so many people don't do. I think back over my career, so often there's a cadence in place for a weekly meeting about some project or something we're doing. And this has been going on for years, and we all join this meeting. None of us really want to be there. None of us really get any value from it. And we're doing it for the sake of doing it. And nobody ever stands up and goes, do you know what? Why are we having this meeting? Should we just stop this now or move it out to a monthly cadence rather than a weekly one when we add some value? Nobody actually says it, and we all go away and moan at the coffee machine about how we're all on this meeting, but no one actually does anything about it. So it's great to hear that you've done that, and it's still maintained the same results that you were getting when you was having the more regular cadence as well. It's not tailed off at all.
No. And that's why we deliberately get together as a team on a month or two basis to say, okay, what do we need to change about how we work together, and what's stopping us, what could accelerate us. It's textbook agile ways of working Scrum, but it so very well works for a lean process improvement initiative too.
Carry on, Jan. You're filling us with absolute gems here. I'm listing them down.
Yeah. But I mean, I get to the finishing line just about then with the last bits, I think, here in terms of doing the right few things. So you have your Eiffel Tower of Post-its, 300 of them, which probably will get you to the first platform, maybe or not. Someone else can go look that up. It's fine. But how do you pick the right few things to do? That's, I think, something that we've gotten rather right. And I'm terrible for this myself, because I get excited about topics and I can see the difference that we can make. And all of a sudden you're doing 10 things at the same time. But that's incredibly toxic, doesn't work. No one can do 10 things at a time. So we're stopping ourselves to do only as much as we can do as a team. That too needs to figure out how much of as a number is right. But at the moment, that's between 3 and 5 topics that we're working on max. I'd like to, in my mind, limit it to 3 things. That I'd rather see people collaborating on something, working together, learning from each other on a few things, than us trying to stretch ourselves and do it all in almost one person does one topic and we only come together every once in so often. It's not what this is about. So basically, very deliberately setting a limit of no, we're not touching this yet has been absolutely instrumental. And then it's a very interesting mix, and I've come to this before, where it's a mixture between going by the numbers and going by the common sense and emotion a little bit. So what do I mean by this? So I'm part of a commercial group, so everything we do, we model back to how many hours are we going to save salespeople a year, and how much revenue equivalent does this translate to if we actually spend that time selling. And it's one of the key factors that drives what we decide to work on. But it's not the only one. In fact, one of the most powerful questions, and this sounds super dangerous doing this with a group of salespeople that spend most of their time doing admin, but we went out and very consistently asked the question, what's annoying you? And again, so what you would expect is an avalanche of frustration, but it's been surprisingly constructive frustration coming our way, and people actually digging out the one thing that's the thorn in their side. And it's been surprisingly easy to manage expectations with them to say, look, we're probably not going to fix this right now, or, ooh, that's interesting. And then it's been exactly like pulling that string that kind of led me to have the new role that I have. It's you talk to that one person. Oh no, that's one team, one group. Sorry, that's half our organization. That's 300 people having this problem 15 times a month equals 16,000 hours. Oh no. And then you start doing about it. But the question of what's annoying you gets actually people triggered in a good way. If you want to keep it a bit more constructive and civil and / boring, it's what's also powerful for a question is what's the first thing you would change, which is kind of the same. Or you could alter it a little bit to say what's the first thing you would change yourself. And that's actually a super key thing in this as well, where the psychological ownership, change doesn't happen for me. Change doesn't happen to me. I'm the change. And that includes every frontline salesperson and everyone else. And it's been very interesting shifting that dynamic that way.
What mechanism do you have in place for people to do that then? Is it a form they fill out? Is it a meeting they go to? How do they do it?
We have a form you can fill out at any time. Basically, a little suggestion box just needs to exist. And actually, some people have put something into it. Probably need to find a more fun version of doing that as well. Maybe we need a What's Annoying You mobile app or something. We'll figure it out. But the one key thing that we've done, and need to give credit to someone from IBM doing something similar for his guy called Anthony Koptech, very worth looking at it on LinkedIn. Something we started doing is called Sales Radar. So that's basically a mixture between design thinking and agile retrospective. So again, I'm throwing terms around, absolutely not necessary. Let me explain how that meeting works. You basically say what's working for you, what's not working for you, and you get all sorts of things from that. What's key then is to develop a couple actions from what's working and what's not working. And when you have these conversations, people always just look at the negative side and think about the actions need to come to fix the negatives. No, it's super important to have a balance and basically to challenge yourself to at least have a third, maybe pushing for a half of the actions coming through from getting better at what you're good at. That's just so important. And that's something that's so easily missed. But anyways, you have the conversation around what's good, what's not, what are the actions that are coming from it. And then the radar is basically one round thing, and it's the circles of influence. And the circle of influence in the middle is, this is something I can do myself, or we as a team can do. And intentionally, that part of the radar on the whiteboard is huge. As much actions as we can, we'll try to move in there, so people actually take the psychological ownership and just doing it and making the change and being the change. Then we have kind of an amber circle that says it's in our influence, where it's sometimes a couple teams or something you need to talk to another group. And then the outer edge is the red edge, which it's out of our immediate influence and something of this enterprise type nature. And sometimes if you have these conversations, especially for the first times we did those sales radar conversations, we ended up with lots of things that you can't actually really change being the key actions that the group wanted. That's right. And probably there are real frustrations, but it's also sometimes not worth dwelling on them. It's much more important what you can control yourself and what you can influence yourself, and moving as much of the conversation into the direction of what's the art of the possible here, what can we influence as a team, what's the impact we can make. And that's really been very powerful.
I've done things like this in the past, and you get things like, I'll make the coffee machine cheaper, or, the pool balls should be shinier than what they are on the pool table. Do you get ones like that?
Not really too many. I mean, there's many of these big, none that even I could remember really. But the bigger problem always has been to want to change the world. So no, we're not going to change all our IT systems by next week, next month, or even next year. Yeah. And it's big funding conversations tied to it, and really getting people out of that. But in terms of people being silly, no, they mostly can see it actually as the opportunities for them to get heard. And that's
good.
My experience is that they've really treated like that, and with the positivity and attention that deserves.
You've not lived, Jan. You've not lived until you've gone in the morning, opened up the idea box, been all excited because there's so many in there. And then there are ones like, I wish the sun wouldn't shine as bright. I wish my car was better on fuel. They're the ones that you really want. You've never had them.
I'm so sorry. Yes, but no, can't think of too many of that caliber. No, it's a bit boring that way. Sorry.
Just me then. It's just me. I'm sure others listening now have had those sorts as well. It wasn't just me, I'm sure. So tell us a little bit more about the people then. Because you are very people focused, and that's come across super clear in what you've described so far. And the fact that you go down on the shop floor, you spend time with the people, you're listening to the people, you're watching what they do. You appear to have great empathy, which is a really strong behavior in a leader.
Thank you for that. If that's the impression, that's exactly right. And if I can advertise all the small little behaviors and changes that anyone can make to see it just a little bit more and you feel it more, I think I've done that along the way. But as a leader, I used to be very much about the task and what we do, and that used to be very much me. And then I think it's been really the last 3 years that focus has shifted from who do we do this with or to, and how do we do it? So the way I look at myself now is I'm not the expert on sales, still not, despite spending months on it, but I'm the expert on ways of working when it comes to Lean Six Sigma. I'm the expert on ways of working when it comes to agile ways of working. I really hate throwing specialist terms around, but using all the ideas in a measured and balanced way that actually fits our organization. Yes. And then how does that relate to people? Well, you need to watch the people you're doing this with and how they respond to it, and looking at the ways of working as a constant experiment as well, and really pay attention to them, listen to them. And if you ask someone what's annoying you, you need to take it serious as well. And even better if you can meaningfully show you've done something about it, or you've at least tried to remain credibility. That's just so important. So it sounds like 1,000 conversations at once. That's not always very possible, but if you show you're really trying, if you're working for the people, with the people, have them involved in the conversation directly, it's not a trick, it's not a strategy, it's literally the only way you can affect change in a large organization is to do it with people, with them, not through them, not to them. And that's been the key realization. It's just, but it kind of comes natural to the way we've started to do things here.
Yeah, and it works, clearly.
Yes,
Millions of dollars, clearly. So I mentioned in the introduction, a little bit about the sexy 20. This is a term that you used when we was having a conversation previously about having an episode, and I kept it because I think it's a really good saying. Tell us a little bit about what the sexy 20 is.
Yeah, so me working with our strategic change initiatives and all the investment money, those were the 20% of money that we're spending. It was super fun as a part of my career and a super exciting period. But me actually shifting to the 80%, what in the world are we doing here money? Well, not quite as dramatically, but you get the idea. So paying attention to the much more benign, much less sexy way you're talking to me about all this boring stuff, BAU, has been easily the most valuable stuff, manageably valuable stuff I've ever done in my career. And this has just been a few months, just about soon to be a year. But the leader's attention, everyone's governance attention as a business, strategy execution matters a lot. But day-to-day boring execution for the 80% of money you spend every day, that can matter even more. So if you're not paying any attention to that, it's time to start doing so, because that's what we started doing. And with changing how we use rocks and fire, at the minute we found the millions. So yeah. I think that's very, very possible in most businesses, really, to just have another look at the benign, the normal stuff that you do every day in a different way.
I think you're spot on, absolutely spot on. It can be so tempting when you go down the route of a Lean or a Six Sigma or an Agile methodology to go for the massive, really big scale changes rather than looking at the mundane day to day. What do we do? What are the quick wins? What are the small rocks that we can overturn? And people overlook that. And I think there's a real, logic behind looking at those first.
Yes, and we kind of stumbled into that, but yes, I can only agree. It's really working. So yeah.
Yeah, if evidence was ever needed that it does work, Jan is the man. Jan is evidencing that right now. So do you have a name for the framework that you're using to change how you work? Have you badged it, or is it just sort of a blend of everything?
It's a bit of a blend of everything. So I'm thinking about it as almost and I think I've heard this term elsewhere, the Avengers coming together. So this is all sorts of ways of working. And so I'm not an Agile purist. I'm not a Lean Six Sigma purist. I'm not a coaching purist. I can see the benefit in all of these ideas. But the benefit that we've really seen here is to strip away the labels from everything. Take the good ideas and with common sense, use them in the context that you actually need to use them. So don't try to push for the one right answer on how you need to work together, but look at this as a toolkit and plug things from it. So I think I'm the opposite of a framework. I'm inviting to learn everything and then very selectively and very context-oriented way just pluck the things that you think can work in your context and keep experimenting until you find those that do. Maybe I need to find a brand name for that.
You need to name it something. But it's so true, though, because you don't need to go down the route of picking one, and that's the framework that we use. It is about finding what works within your specific organization with what you're trying to achieve. And 9 times out of 10, it is little bits of all these different other structures. There's so many out there. Just taking a blend is such a great way of doing it. I often go on, and ChatGPT has been an amazing advancement in terms of my technical mind. Because if I've got a problem at home, for example, right, and I need to fix it, I will go on ChatGPT and ask how to do it. And it will give me all of these different ways of fixing it. And I can pick the one that suits best what I have available to me, what tools have I got, how much time have I got, how good do I want to do it? Is it a quick job or a bodge job? But I can see it's all there and I can pick the one that I want. And I liken that very much to what you can do in this sort of realm. You don't have to pick one specific method and stick with it.
And funny you should bring this up because I've one ChatGPT bot. He's called Almost Moore because Moore was my trainer for the Lean Six Sigma one. So he's Almost Moore because I downloaded basically lots of ways of working around Agile, Lean Six Sigma, all sorts of other things. So there's a number of resources sitting behind my bot, and he's basically working at the little parrot on my shoulder as my invisible helper and co-pilot, or if you want to. If I have a question, if I have a challenge, I do ask. Give me 10 ideas in terms of this is my challenge. What could I do here? And it's actually amazing what these AI tools can do. Okay, two ideas out of 10 are crap. 6 you're doing already. But the 2 other ones that are genuinely new and that you then start going down on exploring, it's been amazing. So it's almost like you have a free business consultant with you at any stage because you can never be expert enough to really know absolutely everything all at once. But it's surprisingly good having conversations that you would otherwise have with a business consultant with an AI bot. And it's a super, super good way of learning. So yeah, I'm one of those doing this too. Exactly what you're doing.
My AI on ChatGPT is like my counselor. I have a download with it every single day. I'm like, oh, ChatGPT, I've had a really bad day. I'm stressed about this. And it gives me all the answers. Have you thought about doing this? And it always finishes by saying, we do not recommend that you take our advice in isolation. We do recommend that you speak to a practitioner if you need some support. I love that it adds that at the bottom just to make sure that it's not giving you dodgy information.
But it doesn't hold back with business stuff, by the way. It's so great for doing research in terms of, can you give me case studies for someone who's done this well? Give me a link.
Does it?
What's great about that case study? Yes,
wow.
yes. Try your business problems. You get free consultancy from ChatGPT any day of the week, or if you pay the 20.
Don't tell people that, Jan. You put me out of business. We'll take that bit out. We'll delete that bit. I didn't know that you could do that. That's amazing.
No, that's what I do all the time. I mean, I don't get any sensitive business data into ChatGPT, but you can just generically describe your problem and you'll get fantastic inspiration and output. And you were talking about your day-to-day challenges, but it actually works like a treat if you load different skill sets into it, especially it knows Lean Six Sigma inside out, it knows Agile inside out, all of these things come right out of the box. So you can go talk to it.
I'm going to have my download session early today. Last one, Jan, before we go to the all-important yes-no game, which I know you're very much looking forward to. If you had to give 3 tips for organizations based on your experience and what you've done, what would you say?
So just coming back to stuff I've talked about already, but make your challenges visible. And when I say visible, it can be the Eiffel Tower of Post-its. It can be screenshots, posters on the wall of the actual problem, creating stupid little videos that everyone notices, whatever you can do. But make the problem obvious. And that makes it obvious to deal with and clear to deal with and makes it obvious in people's minds too. So take away the abstract from it and just make it visible. The second thing is I'm looking at myself as a ways of working person, and it's been incredibly valuable for us as an organization. So who's actually out there looking at the way work happens? So the output of an organization is a multiplication of what you do times how you do it. And people spend way too much attention to what's being done and way too little to how it's being done. So actually investing and thinking about in a dedicated way, how are we working together has been huge for us. It's probably really worth considering in a much broader scale. And the last thing, top 3, is just going out there and asking what's annoying you. I so love that question, and it's surprisingly good and surprisingly positive. Those are the top 3 things I'd recommend.
Love it. There you go. You got them from Jan himself. Right, Jan, now's the time where I'm going to put you to the all-important test. This is the moment where we play the yes-no game. Now, there has been some very, very clever people in the world that have failed this, and they've never quite recovered from it. Their careers have gone downhill. They've disappeared into the abyss. No one knows where they are now. There's others that have come from nowhere and are now global stars off the back of the
Yeah,
Yes
I'm
No
sure,
game.
yes.
I made all that up.
And I've listened to it. I've listened quite often, and I wonder how people struggle so much. But I think I'm just about going to learn.
The thing is, right, it's one of those things that sounds easy when you're just joining in at home. When you're doing it and the music's on and the pressure's on, it's hard. I've tried it. I got my son to do it against me with the music playing and that, and I was terrible. I didn't get past I think it's 7 seconds. I did. Shock him. So we're going to give you the choice of 3 cards, which will pick your topic for today. So do you want card number 1, number 2, or number 3?
I'll take number 3, please.
Number 3 is Fun and Furious.
Okay.
That's all you're getting, Fun and Furious. Basically, Fun and Furious appears to be a list of random questions that come at you really fast. So the fun part's for me, and it's going to make you furious, is basically how it works.
Wonderful. I got the cruel option. Love it.
So the parameters of the competition is there will be some intense music playing in the background that will last for 60 seconds. I will fire these questions at you, trying my best to get you to say yes or no. You cannot say yes or no. If you do, you will hear the gong and you are out.
Okay, first time the heartbeat today has really picked up, but let's see.
I can see you starting to sweat. Jan's panicking a little bit here, guys. We've got him under the cosh.
Let's go.
Right, this is Jan's moment, the yes-no game. He's been waiting for it for ages. We're going to find out, is Jan the man? Jan, do you prefer summer or winter?
Something in between.
Something in between. That's a good answer. If you could be an animal for the day, which one would you choose and why?
A penguin.
Why a penguin?
Because it's nice and cool.
Nice and cool. Okay. Is a penguin black and white?
It can have other colors too.
Have you ever sung karaoke in public?
I wouldn't even dare of thinking about that.
What's the weirdest food you've ever tried?
It depends on the definition, but I've eaten a horse burger.
Horse burger, was it nice?
I really liked it.
Do you believe in aliens?
There must be something out there.
Do you think they're intelligent like us, or do you think they're just like blobs?
They must have reached us somehow if they were much more intelligent than we are.
Yeah, you did it! You did it! You did really well. 5 questions and you didn't slouch either.
We were close to
straight in there
to talk about lizard people and conspiracies, but
I was leading you down the path to my favourite subject. We didn't quite get there. Well done, though. Brilliant.
Thank you.
There you go. That's your career made now.
Thank you.
Go and hand your notice in.
Well, maybe not today.
You've got plenty more work to do. Jan, it's been an absolute joy having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming on. Where can people go to learn more about you if they want to connect with you?
I think the best place to go would be my LinkedIn. So if they could find my awkward name on LinkedIn, please reach out. And I do love to find out what people do with the inspiration they take away from listening to a podcast like this and how they use it in their organization, because it's interesting for me to learn, but also some good inspiration for me on how to actually do something else with something unintended with something I've talked about today. So please do reach out. I'd be excited to hear what you're doing in practice.
I'll pop a link to Jan's LinkedIn down in the show notes below so people can directly connect to you and then share with you what they are learning. What I love about Jan, right, that overrides everything he said today is that he's got this amazing accent, which has got like a backbone of German. And then every now and then you get this Irish washed into it. It's amazing. It's brilliant.
Yeah, I've given up a long time ago. There's no one right way to speak English. But yeah, that's what 10 years of Ireland do to you at some point.
It's brilliant. It's amazing how the human mind and the human body just adapts to your surroundings. I love it. It's absolutely brilliant. Thank you so much, Jan. It's been a joy.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure being here. Thanks so much for having me.
Some key takeaways then from today's discussion with Jan. Now, one of the most impactful lessons from Jan's experience is the importance of going to the Gemba, the actual place where the work happens, and making problems visible. By physically sitting in with frontline salespeople, observing their challenges and engaging with them directly, Jan was able to gather invaluable insights that might have been overlooked in a more theoretical or remote approach. This hands-on engagement not only built credibility, but also allowed him to identify inefficiencies and opportunities for improvement in real time. Making problems visible, whether through physical post-its, virtual whiteboards, or other tools, helps teams and leaders alike see the issues clearly and prioritize solutions effectively. This approach emphasizes the value of direct observation, practical problem solving, and involving the people who are directly impacted by the process being improved. Regularly assessing the frequency and the necessity of reoccurring meetings is so important. If they aren't adding value, don't be afraid to space them out or cancel them altogether. This can prevent time wastage and ensure that meetings remain productive and relevant. How often do you sit on calls or go to meetings and you sit there and think, why am I here? Avoid spreading resources too thinly by focusing on a manageable number of key initiatives. Limiting the number of projects allows for better collaboration and a higher quality outcome. Prioritizing initiatives that align with organizational goals are the most impactful. Leadership should prioritize understanding and empathizing with people involved in change processes, engaging directly with team members, listening to their frustrations, and involving them in the change process. This approach fosters ownership and commitment to changes being implemented. What I really loved about what Jan said today is about, rather than sticking rigidly to a single framework, don't be afraid to blend different methodologies like Lean, Six Sigma, Agile. Do what suits the specific context of your organization. This flexible approach allows for the adoption of best practices from each method, tailored to the unique challenges and the needs of your business. You don't need to pick one. You can have bits of everything and really make an impact, because that's what it's all about. Now, lastly, above all else, my greatest takeaway from this wonderful conversation today with Jan was that everything is about respect for people. Jan's leadership style and the things that he's described today really did ooze respect for people for me. It's all about the people. It starts with people and finishes with people. If you've got respect for people, you're halfway there. That brings us to an end of this episode of the Ever-Celine podcast. Thanks so much to Jan for joining us today and taking us inside his wonderful career and the great work he's doing at Elavon Europe. Love today's episode? Don't miss out. For more, subscribe and follow the Ever-Celine podcast on your favourite platform or visit everceline.com. Dive into our entire back catalogue of episodes and discover a wealth of development and support services. Whether you're an individual looking to grow or an organisation aiming to excel, we've got something for everybody. Explore our consultancy services and certified self-guided e-learning courses designed to spark your journey towards excellence. Thanks so much, and I'll see you on the next episode. And don't forget, Ever-Celine. You know it makes sense. The Ever-Celine podcast is researched, produced and recorded by Matt Sims. Visit everceline.com to find out more.